We're joined now by Kamran Bokhari, a specialist on extremism with George Washington University Center for Cyber and Homeland Security. He's joining us from Toronto. Kamran, give me your thoughts. Why Brussels?
Well, it's the headquarters of NATO. It's the de facto capital of the European Union. It's symbolic, but more importantly, I think it's about opportunity. I think they had the assets, the human and material resources in place. And if you recall, when we were speaking last week after the arrest, I had mentioned that there is this sort of middle manager layer that we're not paying attention to that could pull off the attack. So future attacks, and I think that's what has happened. And in this case, it was probably a use it or lose it kind of situation as well.
Do you think, just to kind of riff off what you just said, do you think that this attack was perhaps planned in advance? They accelerated it because of this raid and the arrest? They were afraid perhaps some information might come out? Or do you think it might be in retaliation for the raids?
I don't think that any terrorist organization can just sort of flip a switch and have these kind of attacks. I think that it was in the works. It was in the pipeline. I think they accelerated it given the timing of Abdus Salah's arrest last week. I think they were fearful that maybe they'll be tracked down, and from their point of view, again, this is an investment, and they want to have as maximum dividend on it as possible. So they struck before they were going to get caught. That's my read on it.
And what about Belgium and the EU more broadly? The European Union's counterterrorism coordinator is quoted as saying information sharing still does not reflect the threat. There are reports of problems in coordination. There are reports that in Brussels there just aren't enough officers to deal with this, lack of sharing of information. How bad's the situation, or is all of this overblown?
I think it's not overblown, and it goes to the heart of the problem that the European Union is facing as a regional bloc. Yes, there is a continent-wide, a region-wide infrastructure, a bureaucracy. But at the end of the day, the EU is what its member states make of it. And no country in the bloc is ready to cede its sovereignty to a supranational authority, even though they want to be a part of it. I mean, we see this in the financial crises that are going on. We see this in the move towards a Brexit. And now we're seeing this in counterterrorism. And before that, we saw it in the migrant issue. So, I mean, this is the dysfunctionality of the European Union manifesting itself in the form of counterterrorism efforts.
There are raids taking place, of course, the hunt for the suspect. Are officials in a race against the clock? I mean, do you suspect there may be more attacks?
I do. I do think that there'll be more attacks, and the reason is that, that middle management layer that I was talking about the last time we spoke, that's not being dealt with effectively. I mean, we don't know, at least I don't get the sense that law enforcement and intelligence officials on the continent know about this middle management layer that's responsible for sending out these various cells, activating them, like today. I mean, again, they didn't pop out of thin air. They were there, they were prepared, and they just changed the timing of the execution. So we need an intelligence operation to penetrate that cell, neutralize it, and then we can get a breather until the next time, ISIS, upgrades its capabilities on the continent. We really don't know what ISIS has in terms of human and material resources in Europe.
How do you penetrate it, though? I mean, that's really a tough nut to crack, isn't it?
It is. It is very risky. It is very dangerous. You need to infiltrate the entity. You need people who the bad guys will trust long enough for them to be able to gain information out of them. And it's a risky business. And I mean, I wouldn't blame any intelligence officer for not signing up for it, because it's a matter of life and death. But that's the business that we're dealing with. That is the kind of threat we're dealing with. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a very sinister and sophisticated organization. And I'm sad to say that law enforcement and intelligence agencies aren't up to speed in terms of being able to counter this threat.
Kamran Bokhari joining us from Toronto. Thanks so much.